Welcome, everybody, to Navigating Change, the podcast from Teibel, Inc. My name is Pete Wright. I'm here with Howard Teibel. Howard, how are you, my friend?
Pete, I'm great. It's been a while since we've had a chance to do this.
It's been way too long. Way too long. I'm up nights wondering why hasn't Howard called me to do a podcast.
So what are we talking about?
What are we? That's a very good question. So we've got another great big event that you're going to be you're going to be doing your thing at this. You're going to be joining the NCAA. This is a big deal.
Well, it's really exciting because at the NACUBO Annual Meeting this July, they have dedicated 2 days to bring NCAA athletic business officers together to focus on how they can bring strategic planning to their athletic divisions.
Oh, right. Okay. So you're not actually going to be playing anything. Because I've seen you play basketball, and I was wondering why would they? Why would
throw
you?
A football better than you can even believe, Pete. Let's not go there. All right. Stay focused now, Pete.
I'm on it. I'm in it. My head's in the game. Here's the thing. So they're going to be talking about. You've got these athletic business officers. Your audience of athletic business officers. What is the function of these business officers? And tell me a little bit about the audience that we're going to be talking to.
Well, it's really the group of individuals who are responsible for ensuring that the athletic divisions of their institutions are healthy, moving in the right direction, consistent with the mission of the institution, and moving sort of as a group forward. The concept here is really something that Kathleen McNeely is bringing to the NACUBO annual meeting, which is these business officers have so much opportunity to bring even a higher level of strategy to their divisions, which will only help focus the people in those divisions to make sure that they're all moving in the same direction, and to also look at tying this back to the institutional goals. So we're going to do a deep dive into strategic planning and what are the core elements associated with that. And the three in particular are relationship management, communication, and leadership. All three of those things were expressed by previous attendees of another athletic business officer conference that they really wanted to learn more about.
You know, it's a fascinating area that you're getting into, particularly with this audience. It's something you and I have talked about before on this show. It's this idea that, you know, from a strategic perspective, when you get everybody on the team operating not as a functional asset but a strategic asset, you know, sort of going beyond the boundaries. I like the way you put that Kathleen had said, you know, you can contribute more than your functional area. I think that's a very powerful thing to address at a session like this.
And I'll tell you something, the reason this is so important, because I think what's true for everybody today, is there's a reality that everybody's focused on keeping the trains running, and I think athletic business officers has their hands full in itself. In some sense, this is a stepping back, looking at the big picture, and it does require not being so immersed in the details, but finding a way to, in a sense, lead and guide your area forward. And that's something that is hard for anybody to do today because we have more than we can handle just in our day jobs.
So strategic planning is obviously a key element, a key objective of your time with these business officers. Why do they need to come to a session like this? I mean, aren't there templates that we can just dive into, that we can download off the web and fill in the blanks?
You know, there's great templates. You could just take a template right out of Word and say you're done.
Well played.
You know that, I know that. However, here's what's interesting about, because I've done a lot of work with strategic planning at all levels, whether it's at the board level, at the VP level, and then at the divisional, departmental level. Strategic planning is really about a conversation. And if you think about what are the elements of strategic planning, it's mission. And until we talk about mission, I mean, we got mission on a piece of paper on the wall and everyone looks at it. It looks nice. It, you know, got the nice flowery words, but really there's something behind those words. They were intended to really point to something important. There's a vision. There are the values. And then ultimately the most important thing with a strategic plan is what are those goals that you're trying to accomplish in the short, medium, and long term. So there's a framework of approaching strategic planning that we're going to get into, show some different examples, but ultimately, in the end, it's going to be about the business officers taking some of these ideas back and really weaving them in through building relationship, across your institution, finding ways to increase the level of communication between them and the people that they need to extract these goals from. And finally, ultimately, if you're doing that, you're demonstrating a certain kind of leadership, really leading from your seat. And we're going to take apart each one of those, relationship management, communication, and leadership, and see how those tie to strategic planning.
Can you talk a little bit more about this leading from your seat and how that applies to what we were talking about earlier about this idea of being more than your functional role?
Well, it's an interesting question you're asking because, there's leading from your seat because you have the authority and people have to listen to you. And then there's leading from your seat because you have something to say, whether you have authority or not. And my experience in large institutions, whether it's higher ed or independent schools or nonprofits, whatever the institution is, too often people don't see themselves as leaders of moving something forward. So everyone's sort of looking around saying, all right, somebody else is going to take this forward, but not me. And one of the things I'm observing is more and more people, when they get it, they realize they're the ones to move this thing forward. And that if they don't do it, it's not going to happen. And in particular, for business officers who are both at the institutional level, the vice president for finance or the CFO or the chief business officer, and then at the divisional level of athletic business officers, these individuals probably have the greatest influence because they know the data better than anybody about what can happen and what can change. So the language that's happening here and the language that's being learned across this country in the business officer space is how to actually translate these ideas, these financial ideas, into action so that they can move these strategic plans forward.
What is so, as I'm reflecting on what you're saying here, what I think is so fascinating is that this idea that it's these financial officers who often have some of the most unique perspectives on non-financial areas, strategic areas, operational areas, because of their awareness of the data.
And, I'll tell you something, they've never really been asked to step forward. And I think that what's happening here is since the economic crisis, more and more people in those areas are discovering and being asked by their vice presidents and from the president themselves, we need you to play a central role in not just getting us the data, but helping us figure out how to lead us through this. And that in many cases is a new discipline for many people that for the most part have really done a fantastic job of keeping the financials in order. But ultimately, that's just one small piece of this. So the whole intent of this is to open this up wide and say, here's an opportunity for you to take back and influence direction in a way that you may never have before. And that's what we're going to focus on at the conference.
Oh, that sounds like a wonderfully rich conference. It's one of the things that I think, when you look at what you do in your role in this and you look at what strategic planning is, as a function, it's something that really happens as an outgrowth of working together in a space that is, constructive and organic. And what you do in leading this process forward, and I'm not just saying this because I love you, but what you do, what you bring to the table here is that space, and so I think these folks are in for a great and fantastic 2 days, 2 sessions with you, and rethinking their role in strategic planning.
Well, thank you, Pete. I'll take a compliment from you any day.
Anything else we need to say? Do we want to share the details of when your sessions are? Is that is that published somewhere? Should we keep our mouths shut on that for a little bit?
No. Well, the event, and I'm sure if they go on the NACUBO website or the people that are going to be potentially listening to this podcast are receiving materials, but it's July 14th and 15th, and it's going to be they're really going to be going through a much broader 2-day experience. What I'll be doing with them is really going to be some on day one at 2:00, July 14th, and then we're going to come together towards the end of day 2. And the intent of that is really to pull everything together, and they're going to walk out of these events, or by the end of these 2 days, with an action plan. I mean, that's really the intent here, is that it's about changing behavior, and it's about being able to take back something practical to their institution so they can move this conversation forward around being relevant for their institution.
Relevant for their institution. That is a fantastic way to wrap up. Howard, thank you so much for sitting down and chatting with me, and for helping get all these NCAA business officers acquainted with you.
Well, I'm very excited. So, by the way, what sport did you play in college? Oh, silence.
I played squash.
Oh, no, here we go.
Yes.
You know what? I don't need the laundry list.
And I played...
Here we go.
Interim tennis.
Interim tennis. All right, I'm not going to tell you mine.
I got nothing else. I don't even want to go there. You've made this space very uncomfortable. Howard Teibel, thank you so much for your time, folks. We absolutely look forward to seeing you at the NCAA sessions with Howard Teibel, July 14th and 15th. This very fine year. And if you want to learn more about Teibel Inc., you can head over to TeibelInc.com. You can subscribe to this podcast for free and listen to some back episodes of Howard's wisdom on change and strategic planning and leadership and communication and all these great things that you're going to be learning more about next month. Until then, thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on Navigating Change, the podcast from Teibel Inc.